Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Raine and Bell Show, episode 3, with myself, James Raine of the North East Non-League Show.
I'm me, Dan Bell of DB30 Sports TV.
Yeah, and it's our last one before the end of the season, before our little breaks as well. But a lot to chat about tonight, Dan. Obviously, playoff winners, champions, FA Trophy winners yourself as well. It's been an exciting month and a half since we last did our show, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, but to be honest, I can't remember what day, what the specific day it was. Last time we did the show, it's just been that much going on. You know, the Northern League Division 1 playoff final, which obviously Heat and were absolutely bossed on the day. They deserved to go up. Then the Division 2 final, obviously, you could talk about the events of that night. You could have a full podcast to talk about the events of that night. But obviously, in the end, it turns out both teams actually went up. So, I think everyone's probably a winner there. I think like the North Riding Senior Cup final and the Northumberland Senior Cup finals and like that have obviously been and gone quite recently as well.
Yeah, lots going on. I mean, starting with the National League, obviously Gateshead, Hartlepool, not too much to chat about. I know we've had the end of season shows on the channel, kind of going through the clubs down to Northern League, kind of the seasons that they've had. And Hartlepool's, like you say, it's just one of those things that just can't stick with a manager long enough to kind of get something going. But more positive for yourself though, Dan. Gateshead, like you said, I know you were on the show a few weeks ago chatting about Gateshead, but just going back over it again, it was a magnificent to win the trophy. Obviously, what's happened with the playoffs, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a great achievement, and obviously you think that game on the day played really well in the first half. Second half, Solihull got back into it. I guess I started looking a bit like extra time. I think was again a bit of a tale of two hours. Really, like Solihull looked in the ascendancy, but maybe made changes that maybe were almost like I'd possibly have an invitation for Gateshead to get back into it. Like I was obviously sat there watching. I was thinking, right, Solihull are clearly looking to sort of hold on to what they have, and in that kind of position when you're 2-1 off half time and extra time, you can't necessarily blame them for that. But I was thinking, like, Gateshead just got to go for this now, and luckily, obviously that's what happened. Got it back to 2-2, and obviously it did go to penalty end, and from there it was a bit of a that penalty shootout was extraordinary. Like 1 minute, it looked like Solihull were going to go on and do it. Next minute, Gateshead. But I think in the build leading up to the penalties, I did think the momentum was back in Gateshead's favour. I thought if there was to be a goal within that last 10 minutes of extra time, then only was going to go one way. Because I think at that point, Solihull had sort of nothing left in the tank to get forward. They didn't really have the Mark Becker side, the attacking presence on the pitch. So it was a long day inside Wembley, and especially considering how hot it was as well. Was pretty tired, pretty dehydrated after it all. But then I just haven't really had a chance to take it all in, to be honest. I've also been really busy with work, busy with other games as well, like the County Cup finals, my trip abroad last weekend. So it's just all been a bit I just haven't really had a chance to
bit of a whirlwind, hasn't
it? properly think about everything, really.
Evening, Craig. Good evening, lads. Hope you're okay. Hope you're okay, Dan, as well. And he's just mentioned there, Superheat Army, like you say, fantastic for the area as well. In that division below that, the National League North, and it was kind of a mixed season, wasn't it, Dan? I mean, you look at the sides that's in there, and it was so unlucky. I mean, you look like Spenny and Shields were going to make it into the playoffs, and they both go lose that weekend where they had to kind of win to secure the playoffs positions. You had obviously Blythe going down and the great escape by Darlow. But it's a very mixed season for the clubs in that. But I think more exciting kind of looking out ahead towards next season. I think Darlton, I think with the way that they finished, I think they'll do really well next season, depending on the players that they might bring in. Spenny, Shields, like you say, bringing players in already. Blythe going down. I know with the lads that we had on last night, a few players are linked up. I know they were saying after the show, Lincoln going to Blythe as well. But it's just all about now the fight for players, isn't it, Dan, I think?
Yeah, and that's kind of what you get in this area, isn't it? I think especially in the National League North, and obviously now the Northern Premier League, Premier Division, with the amount of teams that are from the region and in that league now. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a minute. But I think you've got to give a lot of credit to, I think, Spennymoor especially, because I think like maybe like quite sort of far into the second half of the season, I thought, God, they've got absolutely no chance of getting in the playoffs. I mean, I saw them November time against South Shields at the Brewery Field, and the Shields just totally took them apart that night. And I didn't think that they could have turned it around, but to their credit, they managed to get something together. And obviously, ultimately, they did just fall short in the end. But there's maybe something there to suggest that it didn't quite happen this time around, but like they maybe know where they're at and what they need to do to like make that extra push into the top seven. And of course, it's not going to be easy. We're talking about a very, very competitive league. Imagine South Shields will come on strong again. So as we just mentioned, Darlow had a pretty miraculous escape. Like I think at Christmas, everyone thought the writing was on the wall. I think especially after that loss at home to Scarborough, but I think everyone's thinking it doesn't really matter who comes in. Like it's gonna they might sort of give the fans something to be positive about looking forward. But ultimately, the managers aren't miracle workers. I know, like sometimes we maybe sort of laud them that way, but a lot of credit to Steve Watson. They really sort of turned it around. I mean, I do think then they probably need a bit of a clear out. I think there's still quite a lot of dead woods at that club. Maybe players that unfortunately maybe aren't quite up to that level. Do it on a consistent basis, but it does make it exciting for next season. Obviously, Spenny have got a bit of momentum behind them. South Shields the same. Then obviously throughout the rest of that league, you got the likes of Chester that maybe underperformed a little bit last year, but Scarborough that fell away, but could well sort of come back up and have obviously made an impressive start to the summer dealing so far. So obviously Scunthorpe, they're a team that everyone expected to go up, and obviously it didn't happen for them. Brackley are always there or thereabouts, so it's going to be a good league that next year, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think another league as well I'm really looking forward to. Actually, I know when we've done the shows over the years, no disrespect, obviously, to Morpeth and Whitby playing in the Northern Prem, but it was kind of just passed very quick when we had our shows because there wasn't, to be honest, too much to talk about. I know Whitby were going for the playoffs, but both ended up in the table. But that division next season, obviously, with Blythe dropping down into it, Hebburn and Stockton going up, it's going to be really exciting. I know I love the East Division, but it's going to be really exciting to see 5 teams going at it next season for once in that league rather than just the 1 or 2, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think for sort of maybe your floating fans, your neutrals, whatever, I think that's a league. That's one of the leagues to watch for me next season. I think obviously Stockton, the way they obviously went up in that pretty dramatic playoff final against Dunstan, like could so easily missed out, and I think they were in minutes, maybe even seconds of missing out, but they managed to claw the way through. Hebburn obviously getting that run together, coming good at the right time. The title race did go down to the wire, but they put on the necessary performance at Sheffield to get it over the line. Blythe are going to be an interesting one. I think there's still a lot of question marks about the ownership, about the sort of overall communication from the football club.
Quiet, isn't it?
I think there's a lot of questions need answering off the pitch there, and I think on them as well. I mean, to be honest, I don't think they're going to make an immediate return to the National League North, but I just think they maybe just need a season, like possibly even where they just finish mid-table, maybe top half, possibly just outside the playoffs, just to settle things down again and just get the gauge turning back in the direction that they want it to be. The Whitby and Morpeth, you've got 2 sides there that have maybe established. Obviously, Whitby have been there for probably almost as long as I've been alive, really, in that league. Like, they just seem like never go up, never go down. But there's a good manager then, Nathan Haslam, and maybe one day like they could knock on the door of the playoffs. Like I know, obviously from what I've seen of them on the day, they can be a very good side. I like the way they play. Seen them 3 times this season against Chelmsford in a cup replay, which I think was obviously the high point of their season, setting up that tie at Bristol Rovers, and they're absolutely magnificent that night. Saw them against Morpeth towards the end of the season, a bit of a nothing game, but again. Deserved winners on the night. Just played some really nice stuff. Then I've seen a North Riding Cup final against Borough Rangers, which could so easily have been a real banana skin, but they sort of came through it and like won comfortably in the end. But won comfortably by playing very good football, by staying disciplined. So I've got to say I like what's going on at Whitby just now. I've got to say. As for Morpeth, they always like. Maybe the last few years hasn't really been the most exciting times, but I think that's maybe showing that they've matured at that level, which I think is only a good thing for them, because obviously traditionally as another club you probably associate with a Northern League, but now they're quite comfortable in that division. I think that's going to be the same. Like maybe one day, who knows, they might push on for the playoffs, but again, like the National League North, we are talking about a highly competitive league. I think everyone thought Macclesfield were absolute certainties to go up, and that didn't materialise in the end. And you got likes of Worksop that can always like pull up a few surprises. Warrington Highlands, that looks like a club that could well push on into the National League North in the next couple of years or so. So that is a really exciting league, and I think the fact that we've got 5 teams to keep an eye on, I think it's I think these sorts of shows next season, when we're talking about the Northern Premier League, Premier Division, whatever, I don't think it's just going to be a quick couple of minutes. I think it could be like getting towards maybe like 5 or 10 minutes of chatting about our league. It's just been that much to get through.
No, it's going to be great. And Craig just mentioned he was at the Stockton Dunstan game. Afterwards, the Stockton fans throwing stones off the Dunstan court, had to be escorted out the ground as well. But we're going to touch on, the scenes that we've had in the playoffs. I know we had the 3 lads on last night. Ollie was involved with the Easton final. I know before the show they said it even happened at the Horden Blue Star game, and things weren't going quite right there as well. But like say Craig's mentioned in the Stockton Dunstan game, things like this is just going to stop, because it's just giving us the North East a bad name for the great football that we're doing on the pitch. We don't want to be for the wrong reasons off the pitch as well, don't we? Not?
Oh, absolutely not. You know, and that's the thing. I think it was a bit of a shame what happened at the Blue Star against the Easington game. I mean, I'm not here to point fingers, say, oh, this person's fault, that person's fault. I know obviously there was rumours flying about that someone had brought whatever into the ground, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, I do think it's assumed, instead of it being a Blue Star and Easington thing, it became a bit of a Newcastle United and Sunderland thing, which was probably a bit of a shame. And I think when I think back to obviously 2 days before Heaton Stallington, that was an absolutely lovely day. Like Heaton obviously celebrated going up, as they had every right to do, but it was done in a way that obviously they weren't out to goad anyone from West. Obviously West were disappointed, but I think quite magnanimous in the defeat, and I think it was just an all round really nice day, really nice atmosphere. So it is a bit of a shame that you're getting scenes like that, and obviously it was just mentioned whatever happened at Stockton. I mean, I wasn't at that game, but it's not great, but unfortunately, it's just the way it is that big games like that will attract a few idiots, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was a funny one, because Ollie was saying before the show as well, after the game, obviously he wanted all the players' families there and stuff like that. And after the game, when people finally actually did go out the stadium, it was just, you got all the players on the pitch, all the families, all the kids on the pitch, ready just to take a photo. And as they were taking the photo, they actually turned the floodlights off. But he had a laugh about it. It's just obviously what happened after the game, but as we told, it was just like obviously what's happened on the night, and it just seemed one thing getting worse after another. But I think getting on to the East Division last year, and to be like we said last night, the lads on the show, any team that's going up now, there's no worry of relegation. I mean, you had the likes of Heaven Stockman went up, Dunstan, who was very unlucky not to go up, and obviously still had Ashton, Consett, Newton, Aycliffe after Pura Star came on great as well. It just shows you with the North East, and given another few years, we're going to be losing the quality from the Northern League, but that division just going to be made up pretty much of everyone from the Northern League going up, aren't they, really?
Yeah, and I think it is showing, like, by record that teams are going into that league and doing quite well. Obviously, some have pushed on further since and gone into the NPL Premier, and possibly even obviously in Spenny Moore's case and South Shields' case in National League North. So yeah, I think it just does highlight the like the overall quality of like sort of teams from the region. I think obviously famously in the past there was a bit of a reluctancy for Northern League teams to go up, wasn't it? But yeah, it was. But I think nowadays, because it is becoming quite northeast centric, I think there's maybe 6 or 7 teams there now, and that number only continues to grow. I mean, granted, every year, you are going to have to travel a little bit more, to the likes of obviously coming up from the other leagues. I think you've got Emily, Garforth Town. I think there's Sherwood Colliery or someone like that. I think down Mansfield kind of way, to Grantham. I think a couple of teams are on like Hull and Grimsby, Scunthorpe, that kind of way. So yeah, there is that bit more travelling, but is it really as drastic as what it was previously? Obviously, it isn't. It obviously not. Because I think when Spenny Moor were like in that league, I think they probably had quite a lot of travelling over the course of that season too. I think Darlington as well, South Shields. So I mean, I know they've changed the formats of the league at that level since. Obviously, it used to be, I think, the North and South division, and then then it became I think it became like a big, like just a big East and a big West. Like, so I think one year I had like Morpeth going to Wisbech Town or something like that. So obviously back then you could maybe understand why like teams were like against the travelling and stuff. I'm not saying there isn't a lot of travelling, but it's certainly not as drastic as it was. And I think teams are maybe getting there now and maybe settling quite comfortably. And maybe in the next couple of years, we might see a few more of our clubs push on to the NPL Premier. Like, I don't see any reason why Dunstan can't next year. I think Bishops can go into that league and be very strong. Yeah. So it's going to be an exciting year. I think Heaton will go in and be solid. I don't think Ashington have got anything to worry about. I don't think Aycliffe have got anything to worry about. So yeah, it's going to be a good league to watch. That keep an eye on over the next few years, and obviously as we see more and more Northern League teams go into it, I think that like effectively that could be in a few years like a Northern League Premier Division, if that makes sense.
Exactly, and I hope as well, personally, as the league look at these teams now coming up, and you've got them 5 teams now in the Northern Premier, you've got all these teams in the East, and say, right, midweek games now, we're going to be sensible and right here, local side versus local side, bank holidays, stuff like that again, local sides versus local sides. So when they are going to these midweek games, you're not travelling as far. You've got enough teams now to put the fixtures out there sensibly to make sure that they're not as much travelling during the week. So like you say, the lads are still working, travelling down the game. The league's got to really sit down and try and help these teams to say, yes, you are going to come up, but we are going to support you as much as we can, getting the fixtures right for them teams as well. Do you think?
Yeah, I think as well. I think there's a lot of the things with the fixtures. I think there's a lot to consider. Obviously, who do you play midweek? Who do you play on bank holidays? Who do you play over Christmas? Like what games are going to be liable to be changed because of cup competitions? Like there is a lot to factor in, and obviously at that level, unfortunately, you are going to get a few weather-related call-offs throughout the course of the season. And touchwood, next season won't be anything like as bad as this season, and you won't have things such as Dunstan going all the way to Brighouse to play a home game. So yeah, there is a lot to consider, but I think in principle, like I do think that looking at the fixtures is something that needs to be planned a bit more carefully, and that's not just at NPL East level. I think that's across the board. I think all the way up to the National League. Like you look at Gates and Hartlepool's fixtures, or you look at the games that could be changed because of the FA Cup or the FA Trophy. A lot of the time, like you've got a lot of travelling down to Eastleigh, travelling down to Solihull, travelling like some of the southern teams coming up here. So I think just stuff like that needs a bit more careful consideration, because I think if you're a Gates fan or a Hartlepool fan, you're maybe not going to be not going to care as much if it just turns out that you have to go to York on a Tuesday night. But if you're having to go to like Woking or Aldershot somewhere on a Tuesday night, it's a bit of a different story, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the last league as well, before we kind of get our what we've been doing our channels, is the Northern League. And I know we had the show last night with a few managers on Bishop Blythe, the champions, Heaton and Easing, the playoff winners, and obviously Blue Star going up. And it was quite interesting, actually, talking to Ollie, because he said kind of the way it worked out, because they wanted 22 teams in each league next season, if Blue Star had won the playoffs, he said Easing wouldn't have went up, because on this points per game ratio or whatever's going on now, there was a team further down the country had more points. They would have been voted on a certain thing. So he's kind of said if it was the other way around, Easing would have been still in Division 2 and Blue Star would have just went up as champions, playoff winners. But it's just kind of strange now. I mean, I've just been talking to Dan before the show. I've just been down to my first Southern West End committee meetings now. And it's just the amount of stuff that you've got to put in, the work, the effort, planning budgets and stuff going to a season. And it's all kind of going down to a playoff. And I know I've seen a lot on social media kind of saying what was the actual point in the playoffs if two teams are going to go. But like Ollie said last night, if it was the other way around, Easy with the runners up, they wouldn't went up on that points per game ratio. And I think all managers agreed last night on the show saying you can't have teams going at the end of the season thinking, are we going to get in the playoffs? Will there be two going up? Will there be three going up? And they're looking at the other end as well. Division 2, the rumours 3 was going to go down, 2 was going to go down, 1 possibly none. You can't have teams going at the last 3-4 weeks of the season not knowing where they could end up, could they?
No, it's just and I think obviously, well, you talk about committees there, they've got to like plan these things like accordingly for the following season. Because obviously, if you're getting put down to the Wearside League or the Alliance or the North Riding League, depending on which part of the region you're in, like obviously your travel costs aren't going to be as high. As well, I think on the flip side of that, I know the North Riding League, like the rule is that you don't charge admission to get into the games. I mean, I know in that league you've got a lot of like games that are played on like in like public recreational areas. Yeah. So I think that's just to make it fair. But yeah, I mean, you look at the league allocations for next season. I think Division 1 especially. I think the big talking point is the fact that Kendal Town are going to be coming over from the North West Counties League. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think Redcar Athletic put a tweet out with the lineup for the league for next season. There was a question mark around who was going to take on a sports. I think everyone was pretty certain it was going to be Mask, which obviously has happened. But I think, if anything, like if there was any team that you would have expected to have been transferred over from like one of the other leagues into the Northern League, you would have expected to have been Pickering.
There's rules, wasn't
I think like Pickering or possibly even Knaresborough, Harrogate Railway. But I think Kendal was a massive surprise. No, they're not happy about it, and understandably so. I mean, I'm sure they'll get a good welcome at each Northern League ground to go to. I'm sure like a lot of the fans of like the Northern League regulars will enjoy the trip over there. But for them, in terms of planning their budget, because I think with Penrith and Carlsea, it's a bit of 6 and 2 threes really. I think possibly even it's easier for them two to be in the Northern League. But I think for Kendal, like from Kendal, I think it's probably easier to get down to like Preston, like Liverpool and Manchester, than what it is to where it trips all the way up to Newcastle and Northumberland, possibly even Teesside on a Tuesday night, if you get what I mean. So,
especially with the weather last season,
yeah,
last minute calls off down to Kendal, you don't need them.
and that's the thing, and especially with how notoriously like rainy it can get over in Cumbria. I'd know that because I lived over there for 4 years. Yeah, it's like the whole, and obviously they were told that without any prior warning or whatever that they were going to be transferred over. So I think that lack of transparency is probably what really frustrates like the clubs, the players, the management or whatever. Because I know for players, like we'll say the way it is in non-league is that your better players tend to leave and go into a higher league. That's just the way it is across the board. But I think like players will be obviously looking at that, and obviously the lack of transparency. Like if they're going to be going down, do they really want to stay? Obviously in Kendall's case, can a lot of their players really commit to the extra travelling that they're going to have to endure over the course of next season? So it just leaves a lot of questions, and I think the fact that the FA just seem to drop it on you, like they don't sort of tend to like. I'm not sure if the clubs are told when the league allocations, whatever, are going to be in, but it certainly came out of the blue as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it's just that kind of lack of. We do need more transparency. I think again, a bit like what we're talking about with planning fixtures, these kind of things need a bit more thought put into them, if I'm telling the truth. So I'd love to know the FA's sort of rationale behind some of these decisions, but then again, like when do the FA and common sense go hand in hand?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to help much, does it? No. And only obviously our channel's done it. I know it's been about a month and a half, and we've been very, very busy in a lot coming up with the Euros as well. Excited for them?
Oh, absolutely. The ticket for Belgium versus Slovakia arrived in my UEFA account today. So, yeah, that's kind of made it feel real. I think for the last few months, I've been like, obviously, I've known I've been going, but I've been like, really, me go to these shows? It's all felt a bit surreal. But now, obviously, I've got my flights booked, I've got my hotels booked, I've got the ticket for my first game, the ticket for the second game shouldn't be too long. Yeah, I'm just so like pumped for it, I've got to say. But yeah, I've seen you've been pretty busy with like podcasts, like so a lot of various people, and obviously at this time of year, like reviewing each club season. So you've had it seems like you've been pretty busy yourself.
Yeah, I think it got bad and it got better with yourself. Obviously, the Gateshead show. I think we started with I think it was the Blythe show, and obviously didn't have a good season. But as we went on, we got more positive from the northeast side of things. And I think with the games down the hub as well, we obviously the West End games, Jarrah, Washy. Went down to watch New Durham in the Wayside League, which was quite different as well. But really enjoyed that. And bowling a few games that we caught down the hub. It was really nice to actually go out and meet a lot of different people and different committee members, and kind of, because obviously going to do a little bit of work before the games, we're kind of on the pitch as the youth teams were coming off training. We were kind of going on to get interviews with managers, and then afterwards I would then go and pay to get in, even though I was already kind of in. And it was actually quite nice to see a lot of people saying, no, you shouldn't have to pay and you're doing it, but I'm actually helping non-league football. And it was nice to then meet friends with these lads from Washington, from Bolton, and obviously now joining the Facebook group. It just creates like a good atmosphere, and it was just nice. And next type of game you go down, nice welcome from them as well. So that's been really good. Obviously now joining the West End committee, really excited about that. So I've got my little Club 25 thing on the go, trying to raise £1,000 from 40 different companies coming on board. I've just passed halfway tonight, so I'm trying to get that done before July. Hope put that in the budget and help as much as we can down West End next season. A couple looking back with Ian Dixon, obviously former Durham player, one of my favourite players, like you say, just getting stuck in that Durham side was amazing. And Stephen Stewart, who's coming on next Wednesday for our final show before the end of the season as well. But I think I've got it planned about 6.5 weeks off. Hopefully still going to be doing little videos on and off, but just time for a nice breakaway for lads, and then obviously a nice family holiday as well. You just need to restart and go again sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna lie, I've been feeling a bit burned out of late. I think that's been part of the reason why I just haven't been able to process like the FA Trophy, my European trip last weekend. It's just been just one thing after the other. That it's just like the FA Trophy run just feels like a total distant memory. Even last Sunday at Feyenoord feels like a distant memory. My trek to Westerlo feels like a distant memory. It's just been that kind of concept. But luckily for myself, I've got a few days off next week. So me and a better half are gonna go over to the Lake District for a few days, just chill, unwind, then come back and finish my season off on the channel, really, because obviously got the 2 England games at St James's, which are coming up. Obviously, the women's team against France on a Friday night, then the men's team playing against Bosnia on the Monday night. So got my tickets for both games, both arrived. So there's kind of all systems go there, and hopefully it can. So it's been a great season on my channel, I think. I think some of the things that I've done, I didn't think I was going to be able to do. Where I said way back in June, July, that this year was going to be a bit of a blank canvas. I started with a blank canvas, and I've ended up with a work of art. Really, it's just been it's just been I just really can't believe some of the things I've got to enjoy, some of the things I've got to have been able to do, and obviously it does leave a question about how can I top that next season. But I'm not even sure it's about topping it anymore, because I just think it's about I know what I need to do to enjoy it on a more consistent basis. It's maybe best not to set specific aims for the season, because I think a lot of it you just sort of learn and you sort of pick up ideas as you go along. Obviously, and you're always going to do a Champions League or a Europa League game or whatever back in October, but I couldn't have told you that it was going to be Atletico Madrid versus Feyenoord, and I didn't and even heading over to Madrid that day, I couldn't have told you that by the end of the night I'd be really wanting to that Feyenoord, despite the fact I got beat that night, would have left such an impression on me that I would have been I really want to go to their ground one day. And obviously, lo and behold, managed to do that last weekend, which was really good. So I'm ready for a breather next week in general. But I think after that England against Bosnia game, I'm just going to take the 2 weeks in between, the 2 weeks in between the season finishing and my game at the Euros. I'm just going to take those 2 weeks just to have a break from uploading and stuff like that. But you know what? I think obviously 2 years ago I probably made the mistake of losing all my momentum, and I had to pick up the pieces last summer. But I think this summer I'm not going to be away sort of long enough to lose any momentum, and I've obviously I'll be working on things for the channel. I think new channel logo, obviously the special intro for the Euros, just sort of thinking about how I'm going to structure those videos. But it will be nice just to just go to the Euros with a fresh mind. I know a lot of my European trips this season, I've pretty much all of them I've gone out there and just been to whatever game. I've travelled out there on the day, and it's just been pretty exhausting. Whereas obviously for my first game at the Euros anyway, I've got 2 days just to just enjoy a couple of things in Germany. I think I'm planning to go to Europa Park, which I'm kind of looking forward to. Just sit in the bars or whatever and just watch the other games at the Euros while they're unfolding. So I think the plan is to find somewhere to watch the England game on that Sunday night. Then obviously go to Frankfurt at my own pace on Monday. Have a bit of a look around, find somewhere to eat, find somewhere to have a drink, and just take it all in, because this might be the only chance I get to see a game at a major tournament, and hopefully it isn't, because I'd like to go to the World Cup one day. I'd like to go to the next Euros, which is obviously over here. But I think because it's my first one, and obviously the last Euros were ripped away from me by COVID, it's just something I just want to embrace, and hopefully it can maybe set the tone for next season.
No, it'll be really good. I know my plan is not to get burned because I'm going to Turkey in July. We normally go to Greece in June, but it's a bit more cooler. So all of a sudden she's decided to book Turkey in July with ginger hair. It's not gonna. I'm gonna come bright red. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, I'm away in Florida in August, so you miss a couple of weeks or so of the start of the regular season next year. But that's just give and take. So we do a biggish holiday every couple of years or so. But I can just picture us now in September doing one of these shows, and like obviously you're burnt to a crisp. I look like a drumstick. It's just gonna we sort of trying to bat off sunburn while chatting about a rainy Tuesday night game between Northallerton and Kendal. You know what I mean?
Good stuff, man, isn't it? And Ian's just mentioned as well, hi guys, hope you're well. The latest total is 110,000 for Darton, now boosted budget. I know we had the Darlow fans in a few weeks ago, honestly. The amount of support that they put in season by season, it's fantastic. And hopefully, like I say, that'll grow as well. Like you say, with the support that they're having, and I know obviously not a bigger picture, but I know down the West End, this Club 25 thing that we're trying to do as well. It's £25, get in for one season, hopefully it's £1,000. But there's a Northern League club that £1,000 it might pay one player's wage for pretty much half a season or a season. So hopefully we can get that sorted as well. But Dan, no, thank you very much again for coming on. I know we've got our brace now back. I know back in July time, so hopefully catch up and hear about good Euros and hopefully England getting as far as we can. I mean, what do you think we will go far?
Yeah, I can see it. I think it's possibly the best chance. I think the last couple of tournaments obviously done well, but I think probably the squad was probably still a bit it was still a bit young and I haven't quite hit those maturity levels. And I think a lot of the players now are starting to come into their prime, but it's not going to be the easiest of the groups. Obviously, you've got like Denmark are always going to be a tough game. Slovenia and Serbia are a bit of a banana skin. But then obviously you look on the outside, you'd expect Belgium to get through that group. The Germany will want to make an impression as a horse. France will want to keep their obviously momentum that they've built up over the last few years, winning the World Cup, then obviously losing the final, but still gone quite far in tournaments and always there or thereabouts. Italy obviously looking to retain it. Then there's always someone that takes you by surprise as well. Like people are suggesting Turkey. It'd be interesting to see how Scotland do actually. I was going
to say Scotland actually. Yeah,
are going to make jokes and say, "Oh, they're going to get 0 points or whatever." But I honestly, God, I hope Scotland do okay because. Like obviously, I know a lot of people up there. So I love visiting Scotland. So I really hope that they do okay. It'd be nice to see them get through. It would be nice to see them at least get out of the group. I know it's not going to be easy for them, but I think they're going in with probably with a bit of a rawness. Really, yeah. I think they'll just embrace it, just go for it. Whereas I think that's probably the difference between Scotland and England at the minute. You've got England where obviously the pressure's always going to be there because of the sheer level of quality, but then you've got Scotland who obviously going in as underdogs in the group, underdogs in the games that they play, but that might be something that works in their favour, who knows.
Evening, just even say good night as well. Ian and Craig, thank you very much for all the comments throughout the night as well. I really appreciate that as well. But before we go, I just want to obviously say now with the summer coming up, and obviously we are massive on non-league football. I think Dan will agree that if you see your team put anything on social media, a daft football card or a daft this or that £1 or £2, honestly, please support non-league football over the summer. The season has ended, but they still need your support throughout that pre-season. If it's just a daft little sponsor, player sponsor, if you can afford one, honestly, it means the absolute world of the club. So keep supporting your football clubs throughout the summer as well. No, Dan, thank you very much, and I really hope you enjoy your time off in the Euros and come back recharged for next season.
Yeah, I think now's probably the time for the break. But as we said, I've got summer and hopefully another very positive season that we can talk about throughout the course of while it's going on next year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But again, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night as well.
Thank